And let me tell about my in one of my jobs. It was one of the most interesting jobs. I was um, head of a department of planning in the metropolitan area of Frankfurt Main, in the center of Europe, and our task was to organize a land use plan for a huge area, 2,500 square kilometers, 43 communities between very small 300 inhabitants up to 300,000 inhabitants. And we have to do it by German law, and we have to do it in the way that we um, in two different steps show all what we are working out to the public and to all private and um, what can I say, the private and legal authorities, so
Yes.
they can make their own um, um, remarks, what they accept, what they would like to change. And if you make organize this project, this such a project, you you have a little bit to go back from your own ideas. You must concentrate your own work as a leader of such a process, just to keep the information level for all participant of this process transparent. And you can do it today much better by a good digital system, because everybody is able to communicate and see all results and all different steps. Was in Frankfurt. It was a very complicated process. It was a process running about 5 years, but at the end we make thousands of different decisions. Was a book This book was a paper from nearly 3 meters, but we all worked it out, and everybody who participate in this process could see that his remark was be judged in the local authority, um, in the group who made the final decision. So I think this is really the topic, that you explain what you are doing, that you hear what the people will, and that you evaluate, and that you explain that it is quite clear that you can't follow all remarks because they are in a lot of situation in contradiction. But you should inform and explain the people what are the reasons not to follow your remark. Better way is to explain that you can follow the remarks. This is a lot of work, but if you do this work really consequently, then I think you are on the best way to make good governance.
You mentioned also that more and more non-government organizations are in opposition to governmental authorities nowadays.
Yeah, um, this NGOs, we call them, these NGOs um, support groups and a lot of single person, and bring special ideas into the process. But also these NGOs who are in a lot of situation against the planners, against those person who worked out the ideas. You can talk with them in a better way when you first hear and listen to them, what they are explaining, and when you second tell them you can participate in the process, and we really evaluate what you are what you are saying, but you must accept that the decision is made by the elected local authority. And this process must be transparent. Then you can really get those NGOs as your partners.
Yes, of course. And also, you mentioned before that some decisions you took a lot of decisions during the planning process, and some decisions may have been wrong, but this is
Yeah,
also part
yeah,
of good governance, because
yeah. It is
as long
really.
as you open information.
It's we are human beings, and we cannot see forward to all what can happen, and sometimes we misunderstand information. So we really must assume that some of those thousands of different decisions put the extension of this small village to the right side or to the other side, or bring the street between both villages, or connect them by a new street. Um, in a lot of points, 10 years later, 20 years later, you will see, okay, it could be have been a better way to do this. But nevertheless, as more as you make this process transparent, as more as you involve the people and the organization and all the other public authority, and as better you organize this process in a proper way, as better the result will be. And the most important thing is, if you keep line in this process as I explained it, you will have a really better acceptance of the result. And a better acceptance of the result means that you have a better chance to realize it. Because without acceptance, the realization is very hard and has a lot of danger.
So, some final recommendations, Jens, for good governance. I mean, especially for local authorities who sometimes they lack some knowledge, or they tend to be more authoritarian people.
Yeah, you see, if you, especially in small local authorities, they have not so much time. They have not so much information, and the background is lower than if you do it in a region or in a state. My experience, one of my first experience in my professional life, was that it is a good way to make an information session in front of the decision session. That means you put all the information on the walls. First, the information about the landscape, then the information about the traffic situation, then the information about the economic situation, and so on, about 10 to 20 different informations on the wall, sometimes detailed, sometimes more roughly. And then you go with the group who has to make the decision. You go panel by panel and explain the basic of the question you have to handle and you have to decide. Then you bring all those persons on a rather equal level, and the discussion is much better. And when you have very different level of information, so this pre-information session is a good method to have a better discussion in especially small local authority groups.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Jens. And if you have some final words, and if not, I
I
thank
have
you
the
for
only
your
thing
time.
is I love to be in Honduras. It was a very good time in Honduras, and especially we both and together with Nestor have a really did a really good job. And as I see it every day when you send me the information, and thank you for that. Really, thank you for keeping me informed. And I see it was successful. We start the way to a better future. That's the most important thing you can do in your life.